State Senator Tim Sheldon on the line. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Jeff.
How are you doing?
Good. That last story sounds like Olympia. My God. What are those people thinking?
Right? Who knows? Senator, what's been going on? We have been looking at some of the bills that the Senate has been pushing out here. We had one on firefighting foam that contains some chemicals, passed 39-8. What can you tell me about this bill? What did you learn about it when you voted on it Saturday?
Well, we've been voting on so many bills lately, but I do remember something about it, and certainly I voted yes on the bill. It starts to take out of use particular chemicals that can be harmful in fighting fires. And, firefighters, Dan Griffey's your expert on this, Representative Griffey, but there are particular chemicals that are used on particular fires, and we're trying to follow some of the lead of other states as well as to phase some of those out of existence. It's an interesting topic because, fires, residential fires, for example, are way up in this state this last year. And but these are particularly chemicals that are used in very particular circumstances, and some of those might be aircraft and other foam type chemicals that are used by the military as well.
So these aren't. There's no concerns with personal fire extinguishers that you have in your business or your home and things like that.
No, that was not addressed in the bill.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
What else has been the Senate has been up to here? We were looking at this other interesting Senate bill, 5407, preventing landlords from turning down applicants who rely on Social Security, veterans benefits, or Section 8 housing on their sources of income, but also establishes a fund to reimburse property owners for some damages caused by tenants and up to 14 days of rental losses. This seems to take care of two potential issues.
Yes, but it is very complicated. Rental people that are landlords are a particular breed of people that are always trying to protect their property.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get someone out if they're trashing the place. And as I recall, I didn't vote for the bill because some of the provisions, but the landlord has to be able to say feel that they have the ability to collect the rent.
Sure.
If you don't have a darn thing and you show up and say, hey, I want the house, and then you're not going to be able to pay for it at all, I think the landlord has to have some ability to not discriminate, but ability to choose.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't help. It doesn't help the kids that are involved. It doesn't help anybody if you can't pay. You've got to go down to DSHS and get some help and work through some of these issues. So landlords were not in favor of the bill, but it did pass with, I think, Jeff, you could probably tell me, I don't think it passed with a real strong majority.
The one thing about this is I first read it, you're right that you can't discriminate on where the money comes from, Social Security, veterans benefits, but I can't imagine anybody would object to having an understanding of how much money you have available for rental. They say if you're going to buy a house or you're going to you have a third of your paycheck goes to rent, and if you can't prove that those funds are there on a monthly basis, you're right. It can mess up not only how you're living, but then how the kids are adjusting to if you're moving all the time and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of very interesting bills this year. One of them, the Seattle Times wrote up this morning. I just briefly looked at it. The idea that you would that the state could not disclose or to hide state employees' birth dates. And the Seattle Times was very critical of the majority party for passing that bill because there's a lot of issues with sex crimes and other things that can be hidden. Birth date, even if you know the year, it's a lot very useful in trying to screen people in a way that protects children and others.
Huh. And
so they was very, very critical. And issues that this bill what the bill deals with is home health care workers and other people. So the media wants to be able to see those birth dates, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I know, I don't think that state employees should be able to hide their birth date. It's not like you're going to be targeted or profiled or anything else. It's just a fact of life.
There's a lot of information available for folks if they want to try to search for it online. If you're a public employee like yourself or state workers like that, and in all your pay schedules,
your pay, right? Your pension, whatever you have, it's garnered through the state, through government, and I don't think there should be anything wrong with disclosing that. When we come out with those salary issues, it's very interesting. I mean, you can go online and get the salary of every teacher in Washington State, every professor in Washington State. You can get the exact salary. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. People, hardworking taxpayers deserve that kind of information if they want it.
Sure. We had Mason County Commissioner Kevin Schutte on just before you were here, and we were talking about some of the mandates that come down from you guys in the state legislature, but also from the feds. And I see in the president's new budget for the next year, he's proposing some cuts in cleanup spending at Hanford and some other areas around the Puget Sound for some cuts in those budgets. How do you talk with the feds on saying, hey, we appreciate what you're trying to do, but we can't afford this here, so help us out?
Well, sometimes the legislature will pass a joint memorial. The House and the Senate will get together, pass it. Doesn't need a gubernatorial signature, and we'll send it to Congress and give them our opinion. Now, on Hanford, we have to continue the cleanup. It's mandated by federal courts. There's no getting around that. So the fact that President Trump is proposing something, that's probably not going to happen. It's going to be up to the Congress to appropriate the dollars. I do note that last year and even this year in his budget, he will propose to privatize the Bonneville Power Administration, and several presidents have done that over the years, and it just won't happen because the Northwest delegation is very strong, and while the BPA is sometimes struggles just like everybody or every institution, they are providing the lowest cost power in the country. How would you like your electricity bill to double like it is in California, double what we pay here?
Right. So
I don't think the president's proposal for that's going to go through. I did note too this morning that he's going to proposing some cuts in federal monies for transportation for this state.
Yeah,
and I think what it gets down to for the president, I'm not going to criticize him here, but I think he looks at that electoral map and says, well, the West Coast, I didn't get one electoral vote out of Washington, Oregon, and California, and he looks more to the Midwest where he did better in the election. So
interesting.
It is. I mean, I think you have to be cognizant of the entire country, and it's difficult when politics are so intense like they are in Washington D.C.
They really are. It is something we've never seen, really.
Yeah, how do you have bill after bill after bill where the Republicans all vote one way and the Democrats all vote the other way?
Yeah. And if you look, and I'm reminded to the State of the Union a couple of weeks back when West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin started clapping for something. He looked ready to stand up, and then he looked around. Nobody else was standing.
He sat back down.
Boy, I better sit back down.
Like
here.
it didn't happen. We saw you, buddy.
Isn't it bizarre?
It is.
It's totally bizarre.
We'll see if something cuts and breaks through here as we move through this election day. Well, State Senator Tim Sheldon here from the 35th, Democrat out of Potlatch. It's always nice talking with you, Tim, and keep up the good work, and we'll talk next week.